Hello, and thank you for joining me. I am Krista Snow, coming to you from El Paso, Texas, right here on the border. 2 years ago, I decided to create a podcast of mini-series focused on outliers and the unique journeys we walk, because truly, we need each other. I've built a collective to dive into a variety of topics from healing and relationships to business advice and neurodivergence. My commitment to you is to bring you integrity and high quality, because I believe in people and their potential. So without further ado, welcome to this space where you can join the collective as we listen, learn the flip side, and ultimately level up our lives together. I'll be your host, and you're listening to the Level Up Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Level Up Podcast, a series on healing that we are doing. Today's episode is going to be on the 5 love languages. So, this is a book that was written by Gary Chapman, and it's been on the New York Times bestseller list for like 20 years and has created this entire collective of people that have changed their lives, told others about it, and there's a lot of other offshoots that have come from the 5 love languages. And if you go to their website, you can do the test for that. But they also have like the test to find out your apology language. And so a lot of the resources that they have are really fascinating and interesting and completely free. So the 3 of us here today, me, Melissa, and Leah. Say hi, ladies.
Hello. Hi.
We're going to talk about our own experience or our journey, our journey of growth, our journey of knowledge, all of that through learning about the 5 love languages, which I think I probably heard about when I was first 10. So before we get into it, we will do low high. My low is the fact that I just went to the chiropractor on Friday, and I'm still in the same amount of pain that I was before I went to the chiropractor on Friday. It's now Monday. So that is definitely my low. But my high is I finally got a hold of the IRS, who I have been trying to get a hold of to deal with a business issue for one of my clients. And I have not solved it, not even close, but I have finally gotten in contact with someone after 3 weeks of trying. So that's my high. How about you, ladies?
Well, my low is I've had a pretty emotional weekend, month, start of the year. It's had a little bit of a rocky start. And so today I've been pretty emotional and dealing with that and just kind of processing all of the changes in my life. My high is that today I didn't have work, and because I didn't have work, I still wake up at my normal 4:45, and so I chose to be productive in that time. Instead of laying in bed playing around on my phone, I went to the gym, and it was amazing. I love going to the gym. It's just so good for me all around. So
good for you.
Thank you.
That is on my list of things that I want to start doing regularly.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely applaud you, because, oh my gosh, it's just hard. It's really hard for me to work out.
Yeah, it is hard. It's definitely not something that comes easy. I have to work, and I call myself beefcake at the gym, okay? To encourage myself. Come on, beefcake, you got this.
I love that.
Whatever works. It's going to be different for everybody.
That's cute.
All right, Leah, you're up.
Yeah, my low is this class that I'm in and the complete
Statistics.
yeah, complete and utter lack of response or appropriate feedback from my professor, whose job it is, to teach. And they don't teach in college anymore, at least online. It's you teach yourself, and if you get it, hey, great. If you don't, it stinks to be you. My high is that I did not go into work today, and neither did my husband. So I was actually able to get a date with this man that I say I'm still married to. I wouldn't know because I don't ever get to see him anymore. So we got to find, he took me as a surprise to a local Indian restaurant because that's like one of my faves. It's not one of his, but he loved it so much.
That's so sweet, though.
Yeah. He's such a sweetheart, and he ended up loving it and like ordered more to take home so that we could share it with our daughter and like have extra for work. So I now have it for work for lunch tomorrow. So
That's so sweet.
So
well, and I love that you said that it's not his favorite, but on the date that you guys had together, he took you to your favorite. I mean, he could have chosen something that you both liked, but he wanted to do what your favorite thing, what your favorite food was.
That.
And I love that.
He's a sweetheart.
I mean, speaking of love languages.
I know,
That's
right?
just what I was going to say. There's a love language in that.
Yeah.
So, I was doing a little bit of research on Gary Chapman and this book, and it was fascinating listening to him because he's just so genuine, and his story about how this book came about was really just real. He's a real person who discovered something that can be categorized and help people. So he wrote a book, and he was talking with the interviewer about how he just he was in counseling and helping people with mental health and marriages and relationships, different issues. And he started hearing issues where there were people that were doing all the right things, but somehow their partner wasn't seeing that. And so Gary Chapman is saying, this one husband, he's literally doing all of the things that I would think were great. In fact, some of those things, like lots of those things my mom did, like I've never even had to do them. This guy's going above and beyond, and his wife didn't see that. And so at that moment, Gary Chapman was like, I realized that this guy, I could see it because I spoke this language. I could just see that this guy was genuine and he loved his wife dearly, but that she wasn't understanding that. And that's when I realized that there was a breakdown that I wasn't sure how to identify. And so he started going back from notes of all these counseling patients and clients and all of these years of research. And he started to see that the issues were categorized in like 5 different ways. Because although in this one example, he could see that the husband loved his wife, he then realized with talking to her that all she wanted was to talk. She was like, he does everything. He's amazing. He does everything. But because he's cooking and cleaning and working, and we haven't talked in 20 years. And all she wanted was connection. And because she didn't feel loved, she didn't want to do certain things that he wanted, and they were literally speaking on different wavelengths of understanding. So Gary Chapman was like, basically, I realized they fall into 5 categories. There's physical affection, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and words of affirmation. And I started referring to love languages in my therapy sessions with people, and I would help them discover their love language. And then 3.5 weeks later, they'd come back, and for the most part, they were like, this changed our life. And so then I decided to write a book. And 20 years later, here it is, a New York Times bestseller. But the only reason it's a bestseller is because people needed help in an area that I wanted to help them in. And so I realized I needed to identify it and speak as a normal person and tell people what my thoughts were. And he was like, it's not scientific, it's not neuroscience based, nothing. But it has started this revolution of changing relationships when people understand. And so I think The 5 Love Languages is a book I skimmed when I was like 10. And I was like, whoa, this is interesting because this could help in like friendships, right? I'm like not even a teenager yet. My parents read it and that they had it. But I realized that this is not just a romantic relationship type of thing, even though on the picture it's like a pink and purple cover and people walking on like a husband and wife walking on the beach in the sunset. It's like no book that someone that's not interested in fixing their marriage or, communicating in your marriage better, no one's going to read it because they think it has to do with romantic relationships. And so Gary Chapman was saying he realized as he started that, he was trying to address that issue, and it caught on fire because everyone realized that it wasn't just about romantic relationships. And I remember thinking that when I skimmed this book at 10 years old, I was like, oh my gosh, my best friend has a total different love language than I do. Wait, what's mine? So describing each one, Leah, how would you describe each one? Physical affection?
So, for physical touch, to me, it's a way of physically interacting with somebody else that makes them feel safe and loved. So it's not just, an intimate relationship. This could be from a parent to a child. This could be, from a sibling to a sibling, a friend to a friend. Any way that person receives the message that I'm here with you, you're safe, you're loved, and that is well gifted and well received. It's got to go both directions. It has to be something that both people are comfortable with.
And what
so,
about quality time?
Quality time, it can be something so small just by focusing on that person in a way that shows them you're prioritizing that moment with them, however long that moment is, over everything else. Shutting off the phone, not being distracted, being an active listener, even if it's just, you're side by side in the garden and you're not even really talking, but you're together. You're doing something toward a common goal together. Playing a game with your kids, you're all in, you're in that moment. They feel seen, they feel loved, they feel included.
What about receiving gifts? Either of you?
Yeah. So receiving gifts, it to me, when I receive a gift, like we'd been talking, I can count on, 1 to 2 hands the number of times in 44 years that I have received a gift that shows that person was paying attention. They were listening when I didn't know they were listening. They were watching when I didn't even know that they were there. They were looking for a way to serve me in an impactful way with something that shows I see you. Like I really see you. And
I want to tangent off of this after we finish going through the other two and ask you if you have an example of that. Like, because there are a few, right? Where you feel that in a certain way.
Yeah.
So be thinking about that. Acts of service. How do you guys describe acts of service?
Well, I mean, it can be something as simple as, somebody close to you needing a ride somewhere, or I need a bookshelf, and I have a friend that offered to build me a bookshelf. I mean, that's huge.
So it's seeing a need and filling it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Without being asked, without being prodded, without,
Yeah.
like you see it and you do it.
You do
You
it.
just fill their need.
Yeah, I'll never forget my dad, something that he did, because my dad is very acts of service. And Leah, you know my dad, and Mr. Fix It and Mr. Can Do Anything. Well, I don't think I really appreciated everything, like all of that in growing up, because I saw the way that my dad was with my mom, and is super physically affectionate, and my mom was super lovey with us. And so I think physical affection was like on the forefront. So I loved when my dad would hug me, but I didn't really notice other things that he did until now. And I remember this time I came home, I was in college, I came home from work, and I like tried to flip on my light switch, and it wasn't a switch, and it was like a sideways switch. And I was like, wait, what? And so I like turn on my light, and I'm like, what happened? It's like a sideways switch with an outlet at the bottom. And I was like, Dad, did you change my light switch? And he was like, oh yeah, I got bored today, and I always see you pulling out your dresser to plug in your curling iron behind your dresser. And so I figured you just have a light switch right there, then you can just prop it up on your dresser and not have to go behind your dresser. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. And I didn't really think much about it then. And now as an adult, I think about that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was my dad seeing like something I would have to do every morning, plug it in and push the dresser back in after I was done. And so he created because he's an electrician. So he just switched my outlet. Acts of service like that. Like now I think much more deeply about things that as a kid, growing up, you just don't even think about this stuff. I think we're all selfish probably as kids too. In ways we don't realize till we're adults. But acts of service, like, it's so simple, but it's so intentional. What about words of affirmation?
This is a big one for me. Acknowledging things, like somebody telling me, hey, you did a great job on this, or I'm proud of you, or I love you, or, like feel good words and phrases, and seeing me and validating who I am, or maybe the things that I've done, or, and anyone, I mean.
I think that's exactly what I would say too. Leah, what would you say about words of affirmation? And then also, do you have an example going back to that like receiving gifts? Because I know you have to leave soon, and Melissa and I will cap out this episode. But what are your thoughts?
So I think that it is a way of speaking appreciation to the soul of a person, like at their core, in a way that makes them flourish. Like, as a kid, I worked really, really hard for the grades that I got. I worked harder than anybody around me. It seemed like it came very easily to everybody else. And so, if I wasn't pulling A's, if I got a B and I, was feeling like, man, what am I getting wrong here? Here I am, 44. I'm still doing that. I'm not going to be getting an A or a B in this class. I'll just be happy to pass it. But, to have a teacher come alongside me and say, hey, I saw the effort that you put into this. You made such an improvement. Like, good job. Good job for sticking in there. It was like, oh, this wasn't all worthless. Like, somebody noticed that I'm working really hard and I'm giving the best that I have. And it makes you want to keep going, makes you want to do even better next time.
Yeah, I think the recognition of the effort that you put in, that is like feels like 10 times more than someone else did. Sometimes it just feels good to know that even if you didn't get an A, I saw what you did. I saw you tried. It feels good to know that. Yeah, words of affirmation is mine. What about you two? I mean, most people have two, but what's your number one?
Mine is quality time.
Leah?
I would say I'm an acts of service girl. Split words of affirmation and acts of service. But that's changed. It didn't used to be that way.
Yeah, mine have changed too. I used to think I was physical
mine.
affection. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay, so Leah, the example of one of the best gifts you've ever received. What do you think?
Goodness gracious. Okay, so my husband, again, like, oh, he's so romantic. Like he's just a great gift giver. He just knows what
That's how
to
my
do.
sister is. And I'm like, I just
Good
wish I
gift
could
givers.
like they're just so good at it. And I love
it's
every
either
gift
in
she
you or
ever
it's not.
gives me. Everyone.
Yeah. No, but I had been sewing up back when he was a firefighter in New York. I had been sewing up his uniforms by hand. And I think the arthritis started early for me because it really hurt. It hurt to hold a pencil the next day. It hurt to, just do simple things like hold my coffee cup after sewing up an entire side
By
of a sleeping
hand?
bag. I didn't have a sewing machine. And so I came home one day and he had purchased me my first sewing machine and set it up on the table, like taught me how to use it. And, just one of those things he saw a need and he filled it with something that he knew I would end up loving and not just having to fix his uniforms. But I did. I ended up going on and, making draperies for the house and shower curtains and skirts and, all the things. I just sewed today. I made a gift for one of my husband's colleagues today. So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm curious to know what you guys think about love languages as far as, and Leah, you can pop off whenever you have to go. But if your love language has changed, is that something you'd want to share about, like that experience? Or realizing what love languages were in the first place?
I got one right before I hop off. I got one that I think a lot of moms, Melissa, this might apply to you as well. I know that early on in my husband's relationship, I was a physical touch girl. I just wanted him near me. I just wanted his arms around me. I wanted to be holding his hand. And then I became a mom and my touch quota, my dance card was filled by 9 a.m. And the last thing that I love my kids, but I've never been that person. I was never super physical with anybody outside of, that personal relationship. I wasn't that person. And so your kids require a lot. They're on you. They're near you. They're touching you. And so my poor husband would come home and he finally learned how to, love his wife with physical touch. And I was like, no, thank you, please. No, thank you, please. Like, I didn't even know how to express it. I just knew that it wasn't personal and I love my man, but I did not want to be touched. I wanted a king size bed to myself where I could eagle and starfish, not be touched ever again, and like recharge my batteries and refill. And then as the kids started to get older, here came back that, and I was really acts of service then, like, please just help me, just help, engage, And then here, as the kids got older, I'm like, oh, hey, old friend, want to come sit next to me and maybe hold my hand or, and he's like, oh, you're ready for that again?
All
like,
of a sudden.
So it's important. It's important to check in with your people, like, confirm
But
that
you
they're
weren't
still in that
physically
place.
affectionate before, right? So physical
No.
affection has not been a love language for you.
It only was with my husband. He was the only person that I really wanted physical affection from. It wasn't like that with everybody else.
So when kids come along, well, I mean, that's
they require everything, right, Melissa? Like,
Yeah.
they take all of you and they want more.
I have to take all of your soul.
Because
Yes,
they,
it is.
you know, the
Yes,
kids,
momhood, it has got to be the hardest unpaid job anybody has ever undertaken.
and yet the most important. Like, my
Mhm.
husband
Yes,
and my kids have had to
legit.
remind me most
Literally,
important.
my mom's my hero for a reason.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm.
so, I've also been thinking about like childhood trauma and how that impacts love languages, because I think what you lack or see can impact the way that you think about love languages. And for example, like my dad is super, super affectionate with my mom. And so I saw that example of marriage. Like, my dad is always holding my mom's hand, or, you know, every day he came home from work and we're like, Dad's home. And like hug dad, and then dad kisses mom, and you guys stand aside, go away. Like my dad shows affection, like physical affection with my mom. And so I think that I almost like thought that that is what love is. Like, that's how love is displayed, because my mom is also super, super affectionate. And so like, you know, one of the things she says all the time is, give me huggy, lovey kisses, or come sit on my lap. I'm like, Mom, I'm bigger than you. Like, I will literally snap you in half. And she's like, no, you're my baby. You're always going to be my baby. So I think I thought of physical affection as like love. I didn't even know there were different types of love languages. And now as an adult, I've realized I'm actually not physically affectionate towards everybody. Like, I'm pretty much like my dad. Like, I'd be physically, like, physical affection is my love language if it is my person, like in a romantic way. Other than that, it's not physical affection at all. It's quality time and words of affirmation. And so I think it's also interesting that, like, it's not that I changed, it's just that I thought that love looked in a certain way, and then I realized, oh, people show love in lots of different ways. Oh, wait, how do I show love? And the capacity changes different, like, depending on the factors and depending on who it is. Because if what's my number one love language? Well, is it my husband or is it anybody else? Because if it's my husband, it would be like physical affection. That would be number one. If it is literally anybody else, physical affection is not on the list.
Yeah.
And so I think it's been a really, like, interesting learning experience. What do you think?
Well, no, I think childhood trauma definitely shapes. As you know, I had trauma in my childhood. You know, witnessing my brother's murder, and being abandoned by my bio dad. You know, I don't even know how old I was when he first had to leave, and he left for work. You know, it was during Desert Storm, and he was in the Army, and that was what his job was. But I think that in that, little me saw abandonment and rejection. And then he came home and he actually did abandon and reject us. He literally told us, I don't want this family, and left. And so for me, little me, I was very clingy, needed a lot of touch and assurance, and needed to know that I was safe. And I was safe because the people who were loving me and not rejecting me were there. I could touch them. But now that I'm older and post-divorce too, especially, it's quality time. I need someone who is going to spend time with me, even if it's he's sitting on the couch watching some kind of sport and I am sitting there with him crocheting. We don't have to be doing the same thing, but you know what? We're there together. Or take me out to dinner and let's have a conversation and look me in the eye. You know, things like this. But I think too, quality time and physical affection are one of those ones that kind of go hand in hand, because sometimes sitting on the couch, what happens? Brush elbows. Maybe his hand is on your knee. Maybe you're rubbing his back, little things like that. So I think that there's ways where, like, yes, my love languages have changed, but they're still intertwined.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that you have, in general, the same love languages for people? Like for me, when I was saying, like, for a romantic partner, it would be like physical affection would be a need for me. But literally from anybody else, I don't know. I don't need that.
Yeah, no, I have different ones, especially like even my kids. I think about it. Like I have different ones with my kids.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me about this. I've never really thought about this because I'm not a mom to anyone but a four-legged furry creature.
I think, and maybe it's because of who my kids are, and maybe because of what their love languages are. There's ways that I feel stronger to each one. Like my oldest, she likes to come into my room at night and she likes to have these heart-to-heart conversations. And I feel the closest and most connected to her in those moments. She and I can have an awful day where we do nothing but fight, argue, give each other dirty looks, nitpick. And then at the end of the night, she comes into my room and we have that heart to heart, and it's beautiful. My youngest, she and I like to spend time together. Sometimes it's I'm watching TV and she's doing her nails, or vice versa. I mean, sometimes it's just driving around in the car with her and we just talk, or, sometimes we don't even talk. Sometimes literally she and I will ride around in the car, and sometimes I think my oldest thinks that like we're monsters because we don't have anything going. No music, no nothing. It's just silence, and it's just her and I just
That's so interesting, though, because it's just as close in different ways, completely, though.
Yeah.
So, like, there's the being, the presence of literally you two are doing your own thing, like scrolling, true crime, nails, whatever. You're not even talking. And it's not that you don't talk, but maybe you don't. Maybe you talk little by little ad hoc as you're doing things together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas with your you're older, it's more like I would be, which is more of like, we're gonna have the whole conversation all at once and like word vomit dump. That's more my personality. But we chameleon, I mean, all of us on earth, we chameleon. The more we know, the more we can chameleon. But I think moms get it more than anyone else on earth. Like, moms just somehow understand, like, what their kid needs. And I think that's so interesting that no matter what yours is, what your love language is, I feel like moms somehow are able to relate to their kids, or at least be able to figure it out. Like, if they want to, there is that connection there.
It's like meeting them where they're at.
Yeah. And
which is really what we all should be doing for each other.
That.
It's a superpower, I guess. Thanks, God.
Yeah. But it's interesting. So do your kids know about love languages or anything like this? Like, how does it look when you show how you need to be loved if you're a mom? Because I imagine that must be much different than a friend to friend. It's not an equal peer-to-peer relationship. A mom to child is more of a giving relationship than ever expecting to receive, I imagine. So, like, how does that work then? If you have love languages, do you have particular ones for your kids as well, depending on each one?
That's a good question. I think I think it's probably just kind of meeting. Well, I don't know. Gosh. Well,
Because I think your needs must be the same regardless, right?
yeah.
But
I
maybe
mean,
as a mom, your needs are met differently because as a mom, you're dealing with your daughters as a very specific relationship. And I imagine you probably have no expectations. I mean, you do, right? You do. But at the end of the day, that's different than like a friend relationship. And it's different than setting boundaries and all of that. But like as a mom, do you ask for love? Do you show your kids how you need to be loved?
oh yeah. I get super needy with them sometimes, and I'm like,
Oh,
I
my
need a
mom's super needy.
hug.
She tells me to sit on her lap. I said it earlier. And then
Yeah.
she's like, you want to come over? And I'm like, Mom, it's literally all the way across town. No, not really. And she's like, Ollie, you're no fun.
I think too, something that maybe adds a different dynamic, and I'm trying to sit here and compare like how it was to when they were younger and I was still married, but obviously I'm divorced and a single mom. And, I don't get a lot of touch. Um, and so yeah, sometimes I get super needy and I'm like, I need a hug. And sometimes it's typically not my oldest, but my youngest will be all over it. Or like this morning, um, I don't even remember what we were doing. I was standing in their doorway talking to them about something, and she comes up behind me and she just starts scratching my back.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, it was just like that. I don't know, something about it.
They're just like a body lean against you, like at a random
Mm-hmm.
moment. Like,
Yeah. And they do that a lot in church. They'll lean up against me or,
yeah, I'll
and
totally
that's
like
always
lean up
nice.
against my brother. His girlfriend's on the other side. I'm like leaning up against my brother, or I'm like cuddling with my mom, like
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
yeah, I realize as a single person, it's also like as a single person that doesn't have kids, like my dog is so tired of me all the time. And I'll never stop. I'm just like, come cuddle me. I will bribe you with treats. I don't care. Come cuddle me. And she will. She will oblige. But I have the dog that hates being touched. And so it is great. It is complete back and forth battle. And I'm like, how is this with kids? Like, so mom, this must be very interesting. Because also, if you're cuddly or you want physical affection, your kid doesn't like being touched, or if you have any love language that's different, as a mom, does your love language almost sometimes merge in the mom-daughter, mom-kid relationship? Like, I feel like your love language, your love tank can be filled as a mom by your
Mm-hmm.
kids, even by
Absolutely.
something that's not your love language, just because they're your kids. Whereas, like, I don't think my dad's love tank can be filled by that type of connection. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if
Well, I
my dad's
know.
love language is something, that's how it's filled. Like, but I think a mother, there is just this physiological chemistry connection where I almost feel like your needs morph based on your kid's happiness.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
but moms morph their needs based on their kids' happiness at their own
Mm-hmm.
detriment. And
Oh, yeah.
that's where,
Oh, yeah.
moms need to knock it off. So where's the balance? Like, so is that a thing? Like your
Oh, yeah.
needs. So you will have a need that might be one thing in a love language, but it could
Absolutely.
be totally filled by
Yeah.
something different from your child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, like my youngest, her and I, even just riding around in the car in silence, we're there together. And it's just knowing that I'm not alone. There's other times where my oldest who is not a physical touch person, she will be in the mood for a hug. And then oftentimes about 90% of the time. That 1% when she's in the mood for a hug, guess who doesn't want to be touched?
Well,
Me.
yeah, it always happens. When you learn your own love language or love languages, top 1 and 2, like it's not something you have to defend.
Mhm.
It is something that you are. That's it. And so I think a lot of people, we go through these phases of like, oh, this is what I am. Now I know how to explain myself to the rest of the world.
Mhm.
No. Whatever your language, your love language is, whatever your needs are, that is exactly it. That they are what they are. Just like your feelings, just like your trauma. And we don't have to explain or defend anything when we realize that it is exactly what it is. And that's all. It is part of what makes us us. And I think this world gets so hung up on trying to figure out where we fit and what the right place is and what my trauma is so that I can fit myself in this box and find the solutions for my needs. No. Like, every single person is literally one tiny little speck on the rainbow. And it's not until we realize we are all completely different with completely different experiences. So we no longer need to compare ourselves. We no longer need to judge each other. We can just listen and realize someone else's story has nothing to do with us. And so I think understanding love languages helps address triggers. It helps healing and growth.
Mhm.
When you understand people and the way that people, hurt people, and you attract at the level that you're being, and all of these, these little cryptic statements that people make about like life's a journey, not a destination. Positivity breeds positivity. Yeah. We get it, right? We get
Mhm.
it. When you get it, you get it. And yeah, it makes sense. It's so stereotypical, like, but those statements matter because love language, there may be 5, but you're still one person. Your person, there's literally never going to be another one of you. And so your languages, your love languages, what you need, what you expect, and how you react to people, it's not gonna look like anyone else out there. And I think once we understand that, then we can really just relate to people. And that's it.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
I think as humans, we like to put things, everyone into a box,
Mm-hmm.
categorize,
Yeah.
and
Where do you fit?
yeah. And I think too, like, how we sit there and we say, okay, we all know we have like one main love language. Yeah, we also know that many people, myself included, have two. But really, all of the love languages speak to us at one point or another. It can definitely depend on the situation. It can definitely depend on this person. You're not going to relate to your best friend the same way you relate to your partner. No way.
Exactly. Everyone uses them all.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the factors, depending on the people, depending on their past childhood experiences, depending
Yeah.
on trauma as well, and depending on their own hurt and insecurities. Love
Yeah.
languages can change drastically. So,
Drastically. And I think that they're a very good point to cover, if not start, in your healing journey. Because really understanding how you relate to somebody at a core,
yes. Yeah. And until we can relate to ourselves at the core level, understanding ourselves at a core level that
Yes.
allows us to be able to translate that in communication, then we cannot help anyone else or restore other relationships. Because if we don't know who we are and what we need, then we end up chameleoning our entire lives for everybody.
Yeah. Absolutely. People pleasing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think love languages is just like you said, it's a key part to healing, because as humans, our core need, probably, the top 3 most basic core need, aside from food and water, is to feel safe and loved. And that has to do with love languages.
Absolutely.
So that wraps up our episode for today on love languages, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Level Up Podcast, and the squad wants you to know that we're here to help. Feel free to email us at leveluppodcastsquad@gmail.com. If you have any questions or comments or feedback, we would love to hear from you. God bless, and we'll see you next time here on Level Up.